So the Canadian Research Continuity Emergency Fund, we spoke about this at the last one. But I just wanted to review the stages of this and the funding that's involved. So stage one, funding for wages for staff employed through COVID-19 pandemic. We reached out to you at the end of July. We sent all the PIs a list of people we felt qualified for an offset of this funding from federal sources. It was a very quick turnaround. I want to thank all the PIs for getting us back the file, in some cases 48 hours. So we were able to put together our ask for all of this within the tranche of money that we had. Again, just to review, the University of Toronto received $41.5 million and then calculated a formula based on our overall research revenues to distribute that through the affiliated hospitals. Of that portion of funding for stage one, we got $2.1 million. This is complete. We actually received the $2.1 million this week and are in the process of offsetting the individual activities for the PIs wherever they had someone who qualified under this. So that will be seen in your August financials. So we look at the August financials, you will see that that has been offset. Just briefly, from an accounting standpoint, is you will not see the revenue come in to the activity. The expenses will be taken out. It will have the same net effect, but it helps us from an accounting standpoint doing this. Stage two. So stage one was an apportionment of the affiliated academic hospitals. Stage two was designed for non-affiliated hospitals. We feel that there will be dollars that will be residual or remaining that will not be used by the non-affiliated hospitals. Our ask, the amount that we came back to from a wage subsidy standpoint was more than the 2.1 million we got. It was closer to 2.4 million. The residual, or that additional $300,000 or so, we have asked for as part of stage two, that if there are dollars left over, we will get an additional $300,000 to satisfy our ask. That submission is complete. We don't need anything further from you. That was part of what we asked for at the end of July. We will know about the availability of this funding stage by the end of August. And when those dollars come in, and we do believe that they will, again, we'll go through the same process of offsetting the activities of the individuals who are incorporated into this. I make mention of this just because, you know, there's about $2.4 million in the total ask that we made for federal wage subsidy. 2.1 has been received, 0.3 still to come. So some of you who had eligible individuals and that may not see an offset to your activity until September, but we'll let you know that as the dollars come in. Stage three. So this is sort of the open stage now. And this is for funding for costs associated with research and maintenance and reopening. And this is one where we're trying to get a little bit better sense of what's going to be eligible and allowable. You know, at this point, it's not for wages necessarily, it's for other incremental costs. So this funding will be determined in a similar calculation to how they arrived at the total that U of T receives, and then conversely what we receive as part of that, that overall allotment. Submission to this actually goes through November, with funding to flow most likely in January 2021 timeframe. But why is this important to our researchers, and what are we going to require from them? So, you know, during this phase, we require research and research teams to keep track of what they feel are COVID-related reopening costs, non-wage related costs. But there could be additional PPE, additional materials for distancing, expired materials potentially that you've lost over the 4 or 5 months before reopening, lost products, perhaps animals that you couldn't do experiments on that unfortunately may be sacrificed. These are the things that we're trying to keep track of. So Gilbert Lamb in my office has put together specific account codes that allow us to kind of grab all of those different costs so that we can compile that for the attestation that we'll have to do in the November timeframe. Those have been twice weekly. Gilbert's going to circulate those again so you can understand what they are. We may have to add to those as we get a greater understanding of the eligibility of these costs. I sit a committee that meets weekly, and we discuss all of these measures and discuss what we feel is going to be eligible. You can see in the third point, costs associated with rescheduling and restarting clinical trials. That's a very kind of open interpretation of what that might mean. We'll try and get some better clarification for our clinical research teams as to what we think might be allowable from the standpoint of being able to recover those costs. But I think in the interim, if you're unsure if costs qualify, please ask us, because that's a question that I can take back to the team as well. And I think a lot of us will be doing this as we work through, these different related costs. The good thing being is there is an opportunity for us to recover some of these expenses, an opportunity that we didn't have several months ago. So again, it's thinking through, what has been incremental, what have you taken on as costs simply because of COVID, and my office is here to help with that. But that's really the update on CRCEF. So again, August financials offset, some will be offset when we receive money in September. And now we move to trying to incorporate and grab all of our stage 3 costs. And I'll be happy to take questions on this when we get to the question period.